Almost all of the Art Foamies stamps come with a stamp buddy, and a stamp buddy is this little thing in the package. It looks white in the back, and if you have a long narrow stamp, it's long and narrow. If you have a sort of wide round stamp, you can see it's wide. If you have a big long stamp, again, it's, guess what, big and long, etc. So they're all custom sized. Now you can use them interchangeably with whatever you want. But there is one that exactly fits it. So I want to show you sort of the basics of how you can use a stamp buddy. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up this package, and you'll see there's 3 things in the package. There's some instructions and suggestions. There's the stamp buddy, which on the back, of course, it says right there, hello, I'm your stamp buddy. Okay, and then it also has, of course, the stamp itself. So there are a couple different ways to use your stamp buddy. I'm going to show you the most basic way to do it, and what I'm going to do is I'm taking archival black ink pad, and archival ink is a brand of ink, and it just means that it's permanent ink that's going to be waterproof, and we really need it to be waterproof. So you could use anything that was waterproof. Now I'm pouncing this up and down. Technically, honestly, you could probably rub it across because it's not like we need a super clear impression. We just need the basics of what's happening. Okay, so once this is coated with ink, then I'm going to go ahead onto my stamp buddy and I'm just going to place it down onto there, making sure that everything is within the buddy. Okay, so then you can see I have an impression here. It's not a deep or a dark impression or anything like that. It's just a really basic impression so that I make sure that I can see where everything pretty much is. Okay, so once I've done that, then you can take a moment and you can clean off your stamp either by stamping it off onto some paper. You can also take a baby wipe and you can clean it off. It doesn't really matter if it's clean. It's not going to hurt the stamp in any way. It's just the first print or 2 that you make may have a little bit of color in it. Okay, or I was going to say that wasn't color, that was black, but you understand what I mean. Okay, so then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pick some colors of paint that I want to use. Now I'm going to be using some golden fluid acrylics. You can use any paint that you want. I have found that a more liquidy paint tends to work a little bit better for this. And then I'm just taking a room key, or you could use an old credit card, and I'm kind of smushing it into that area. So I'm going to try to cover this. Now I found that it works best if you kind of try to extend it slightly past the area and let the colors kind of normally meld together. So then I'm just going to go ahead and take my next color, and I'm going to go ahead and add it. And I find that it works best for me adding a little bit of paint each time instead of going in with a ton of paint and then ending up with a flood, which may end up in places that I didn't actually intend it to be. Okay, so there you go. There's some more paint there. And I'm just going to keep going in this fashion, adding little bits of paint all over my stamp buddy. Okay, so a couple things to point out. The first thing is that you may have noticed that I accidentally got a droplet here. It doesn't really matter. That'll just be more multicolor fun. The second thing that you may have noticed is that I added some white to some of the colors that are particularly opaque, and that's just because some of the paints that I'm using are transparent and I want more of an opaque look. Okay, so now all I have to do is generally line up, and because the stamp buddy is sized pretty much the same size as the stamp, it's not hard to generally line it up with where it was before. And I'm just putting even pressure across here, and I'm basically using this as a giant ink pad. It's sticking. There you go. And I can turn it over and I can see the places where it's inked and where it's not. And some of that is that I haven't done a good job applying ink to the stamp buddy. So I can try to put it back down and see if I can put more even pressure and if that helps. But if it doesn't, then that lets me know that, like, for instance, here I might need to add some more ink in there. And here I can see that there's just not enough paint. Regardless, why don't we take a peek at what this looks like just like this, and I think you'll get the basic idea of some of the custom. Ooh, I smudged it. But there you go. You can get an idea that this really does come out as a custom colored print. Let's see if I can't pull this up. I just need to go ahead and add some more paint to the places that I missed. So I'm gonna go ahead now and do that and add some more paint. Okay, so now that I've added more paint, I'm ready to go ahead, push this in. Ooh, much better coverage. I see a couple little places where I could probably put some more paint, but I'm not going to sweat it too much. I'm just gonna go ahead and stamp. And I'm gonna see what kind of ghost print or second print I can get on here. Let's see. Pretty good, and actually kind of cool. I picked up a lot of the texture of the deli paper. You can kind of see it right there. It picked up that crinkle. What a cool print that is, right? So I'm just going to continue to print up this piece of paper, and I'm gonna keep going and see what else I can do with my custom colored stamp. If, let's say you're done with this stamp now, okay? So there are a couple things, which is A, you don't really need to clean these stamps. If you're a person who likes to have clean stamps, I would say just take a baby wipe and you can wipe this off and it's fine, okay? Again, you can also run them in the sink, take a soft toothbrush and scrub it out if it's really important to you, but honestly, I tend to just let the paint dry on there and not worry too much about it. So for example, this is a used one and it has plenty of paint dried on it. Let me try to zoom in a little bit and see if you can't see that. Okay, so you can see there's dried paint on here. Now, it doesn't matter, it's totally fine. If you want, you can actually take a baby wipe even after the paint is dried and you're not going to bring it back to normal, but you can see there actually is paint coming off there. And that's one of the great things about foam stamps is you can kind of, they're forgiving, I guess, for lack of a better term. Anyway, okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this Stamp Buddy, which has all these colored inks that are custom color for that, and I'm just going to go ahead and use this other stamp because why the heck not, you know? Because there's plenty of good paint in there. And boom, you can see I've got a really cool multicolored print, and even though that wasn't what the intention was behind this particular Stamp Buddy, I can go ahead and I can take advantage of the fact that I've already done all the work of custom coloring and using all this paint and taking the time to do it, and now I can take advantage, you know, of it. And again, don't forget that your ghost prints are often very pretty and very intense. You don't always have to go straight in. You can just try to ghost it, as they say. Who's the they when they talk about them saying things? I've always wondered that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and fill up this whole thing. So you can see that I filled up an entire sheet of paper. There's still paint left in here. So now I can go and I can go into a different section of it if I want, and I can pull up more paint and have a totally different look with the same exact stamp, just because I'm in a different area of the Stamp Buddy that we colored. Okay, and then now again, I have an entire sheet filled up. There's still paint left in the Stamp Buddy. I have two completely different colored things, so I guess I'm gonna grab and there's still paint also on this stamp, but I guess I'm gonna grab a different stamp. That paper filled up super fast with all these colorful dots. That was super duper easy. And you saw that I just bounced around all areas of the Stamp Buddy, and you know what? There's still paint in there. It's amazing. So I'm just gonna, look at that. It's so cool. I'm just gonna have to keep going, man, because I just can't waste any of this paint. You just have to keep going and going. And again, I'm just going in one area of it. So you can see how this, you know, you could get stamping for hours. Oh, I think I rotated that, and now I have a kind of cool mottled look going on as it's switching back to the two sides of color. But you could just keep going and going and going and going and going and really, you know, have a lot of fun and not have to like keep dragging your paints out or using a brayer or any of that stuff. You've just got tons and tons of paint and color to play with as long as you have your Stamp Buddy. Now, your Stamp Buddy is completely reusable. The only thing is you cannot let the paint dry in here. So that's the big number one thing, is you want to make sure that you get your Stamp Buddy into, I like to just rinse it under the sink until the water comes out clear. And if the water comes out clear, then it's good to go. You just need to let it dry because you can't use it when it's wet, but you just go ahead and you let it dry. And when it's dry, look at that. That's beautiful. It'll be ready to use. So let's go ahead and, ew, that was covering up some paint that I don't want to get my elbow into. Let's get a new sheet, shall we? And again, just keep going into all the areas. Oh, I like this multicolored look I'm getting here. And see, this is a deli paper that I don't normally use and I'm not super in love with. It's more waxy than I'm used to, and so it resists the paint a little bit more than I would like it to. It doesn't just sort of really super smoothly take it. So that's one of the issues. Anyway, you can see how easy this is to do. I mean, if anything, I'm so bored. It's so easy. I don't even have to think about it. I'm just sort of blindly stamping. But you can see how kids would love to do this. You can see how you can make hundreds and hundreds of papers without even thinking about it in, you know, really what is essentially no time at all. And again, it just, I mean, easy. So I've done this a lot of times with fabric paint, absolutely, no problem. On fabric, it looks fantastic. You can use it with any of your favorite acrylics at all. And, you know, you just keep stamping and stamping. Okay, but wait. So before this stamped up, and it looked like the movie stopped recording for some reason, and I'm not sure when it stopped recording, so this will be hilarious. But what I was going to say is a lot of people ask if you can take the Stamp Buddy and push it down and get anything. And the answer is not really. It kind of leaves a fuzzy thing behind, but it doesn't leave a ton of color. But, oh, I should probably leave that down so I don't put my arm in the paint that's under there. But one of the things that you can do with the Stamp Buddy is if you have a small Stamp Buddy and a large stamp, which unfortunately this is a large Stamp Buddy, so I can't really show this to you unless I'm super smart and, well, I can kind of show it to you. Which is if you had a small Stamp Buddy, one of the things you can do, and just remember this, is you can stamp the buddy onto the stamp. So let's say I didn't want the other colors that are on here. I only want the gold, the kind of golden color and the kind of bronze color. So I'm just pushing that part of the Stamp Buddy, the part that's inked with those two colors, onto my stamp, and I'm ignoring the rest. So even though this is really big, I'm going to be able to apply those two colors, or again, if I had a little buddy, I'd be able to apply that. And now I'm going to end up being able to print just, boom, exactly the colors that I wanted. Now my Stamp Buddy's starting to run a little bit low on paint, which is why that print is a little bit fainter than I would have perhaps liked it to be. Let's see if I can't get the last dregs of paint on out of here. Okay, I mean, you can do this with any side of it. You can say, you know what, I want to add some blue and stuff into here. Let's see if that's a little more juicy fruit. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and stamp it. Whew, that looks cool. That looks almost like stone or rock or, I don't know, something super awesome. Cool. Look at the color on that. And the sort of modeling that's in there. That turned out pretty cool. If we could focus on it, it would be even cooler. There you go. Pretty cool. Okay. So lots of possibilities with your stamp buddy. That's really just the beginning. There are actually lots more. Just make sure to rinse it before anything dries in here. Okay. So that's the basics of how to use your stamp buddy. You can see you can just make tons and tons and tons and tons and tons. Oh, and tons. Oh, and don't forget about our art journal page and tons of lovely, luscious prints using one single little stamp buddy and just a teeny bit of work. Pretty darn cool. I hope you'll give it a try.